big empty wall space, like go 3, 2, 1, just so we can kind of have that. Yeah.
We're deciding whether we're going to.
Alright, if I stuck a piece of paper up there first, will they stick to the wall?
Oh, there's another one.
I like it. Annie, put it in good place. I really like it.
All right, we sent out the link to the Google Docs, and I'll move so you don't have to reach over my head. Maybe if you send it later, I bet they'd maybe not, but I hope that for most of you at least got the Google Docs. And what we were asking for, especially for those of you who weren't quite sure either how to get into it or you didn't get it, what we had asked is what are your goals for this class that we're going to be teaching? So what do you want what do you want to get out of this class, and what are your needs? So what do you need? What are some of your goals? And here are some of the things, we compressed them and we put them together, but here are just some of the things that we came up with. A lot of you said that your writing folder system that the kids have is something that you really want to refine, and you just want to get that clear so that the kids have a clear place where they can go to all the time. It's the same, it's organized, and you wanted something like that. We will talk about that a little bit. Ideas for mini lessons, and the great thing about these books that we're going to be diving into is that it is full of mini lessons, and the language and the vocabulary that Lucy uses in these books is so fantastic, and it's just so rich. So we're really going to touch a lot on that. A lot of you said that you wanted, or a couple said that you wanted a writing center for kids to write when they were done working. And we put clarification behind that because we weren't quite sure if that meant when kids are done with their, like let's say they're done with
writing time,
math,
or
weren't quite sure.
or is it like you're done with the subject and you want writing to be an option? Is that maybe yours, Chris? Is that?
Oh, well, nevertheless, we will touch a little bit on that too. So wherever our thinking was with that, we'll talk about that. Incorporating Common Core writing, finding more time to confer with students, and that's one of our favorite things to do with the kids, so we'll be more than happy to talk about that. Conferring ideas, so when I sit down with a student, what do I do? What do I talk to them about? Just writer's workshop in general, how do we get it started? What does it look like? We're going to get a really good feel for that. Lucy goes through how you start, how you go through the year. She goes through all of that. Some things that are similar and some things that are different with the books that we have, like the Linda Hoyt books, the crafting, all of those in explorations. And we'll talk about those a little bit, especially towards the end of the week, how we're going to tie some of that in. And then having instructional writing books to refer to. And I believe that means these, correct? That's what we're thinking. So you have that. You already have that one. Okay. So we'll kind of revisit this and make sure that we're giving you what you want as far as information. We are going to really follow this as a book study. We're really going to go through the nuts and bolts and follow it chapter by chapter. We're going to be looking at the pieces. We're going to be talking about the pieces, and also in that, Allie and I are going to be demoing mini lessons so that you can really see what it sounds like in our classrooms when we're teaching Writer's Workshop.
we're thinking this might be a little odd, we've never done it in front of adults, but we weren't ahead of the game enough to record ourselves in the classroom, so you were getting it.
This morning I asked Julie, I asked her a question like, so how does this go again? And she said, you will be amazed how it will just come to you once you start. She goes, but I am kind of worried when I look out, I'm not going to see those little tiny eager faces.
You know, you can make them believe anything. Yes, you can lead them any place you want to. So go easy on us.
Yeah, see, okay, that's what we talked. That's what I said. Do you think they feel comfortable doing that?
I said we can't ask them to because it's kind of awkward and yeah. Yep. Okay, we're good. We're in a room full of teachers. So, all right. So let's get going with this, and we're going to dig right into the book. So we want to take a look at your nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. With the little girl with the chewed up eraser pencil. And kind of the beautiful thing about the information you're going to glean from this is that no matter if you go to the Linda Hoyt or you go whatever resource you go to, this will always work as a foundational piece. So it goes in that best practice area. If you have this and you're just building and growing from it, you're good to go.
And we just want you to know, I'm so thankful that you guys are like getting up and getting what you need. If you have a question or anything, just say it. Or you want to talk, just say, hey, can we have a second to talk about that? Can we just stop for a second? Please say that, because we don't want to keep talking the whole time. So. And where we would like you to start in chapter 1. Chapter 1 is really just an overview of what this book is going to look like, but we actually want you to flip to page 3, where it says an overview of this curriculum. And what we'd like you to do is we're going to give you just a little bit of time to read from an overview of this curriculum, and then back on the next page all the way down to the words themselves. They're right down at the bottom. You see where themselves is, it's right at the end of that page. And so we just like you to read from there to the, you can go ahead and do that.
No, I can't find it when I look up the note.
Okay, you're reading that part. Still, it's just right on the same page. You're basically reading.
Oh, we were going like here.
Yes, I know. No.
We just take maybe 1 or 2 minutes just to turn to the person next to you and let them know what bit of information popped out at you in that little bit of reading.
Well, I like the training wheel thing. And then it's
To read it,
how we take it step by step and read it.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe that. That and I don't have those many because I feel like because whenever they point to me in line, I start going.
About 20 more seconds. Good. All right. Can we bring it back? Anything that anybody wants to share out with the group?
Yeah.
Guys got good stuff. Listening to your conversation. Good stuff. Yeah, if anyone wants to, if you want to feel comfortable, is there anything that you want to share with the whole group that you just read that you think everyone could kind of benefit from?
We just talked about the whole training wheel thing, the analogy to reading, that's what we do for reading, and all its varied levels, and we take them to the foundational level.
Support.
Doing that in writing.
Yeah. Support and nudge, support and nudge. Anything else?
And that support and nudge has a direct correlation to teachers because even as you two have nudged each other forward, that's where that collaboration piece is so important.
Yeah. And between our kids and among our students, yes. Yeah.
We love that idea of collaborating in June with your co-teachers, that would be huge.
It would probably
As opposed to that first day of school when you're trying everything,
Uh-huh.
it's just, it really makes a difference. And then having that ready for parents on open house night.
The note that I took from this is that need to envision the sort of work we hope it will do. It's so strong, as Ally mentioned before. We questioned it, but you kindergartners will write what? And we know that now, we understand that now, but you need to believe in them. You need to believe in them as writers, and you need to have this great big idea for them. Well, our first year of teaching, I know our principal would come in and watch our writing every once in a while, and she said, oh my gosh, because she taught second grade, is that what she said? She was second grade? Nevertheless, she taught a grade higher than kindergarten, and she said, I held my kids back when she taught. She said, I didn't know that kindergartners could do this, let alone second graders. And please don't ever, I know there's the debate out there right now with the amount of things that we're asking of our young kids. There really is that huge debate. This is a very pleasant experience when it's done well. The kids are having fun, they can't wait to do it, it's on their minds when they come in the classroom. Don't feel like, and if it's feeling something other than that, then you need to reflect and revisit, because it is not that kind of pressure on children. They feel empowered and just lovely in this whole writing process. I don't even, do I hit this button? Arrow. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. This is my son in the middle. And that idea about having a vision for our kids. Jake was born without tibia bones, and he had his legs amputated at 9 months. And we were initially doctoring out in Minnesota. And we had doctors telling us all the time that you gotta have a wheelchair in the back of your vehicle because this kid won't be able to walk long distances. He will always have trouble getting up and down off the ground. They were very quick to tell us all the things that this child would not do. And I'm kind of, I don't know why I'm feeling like I'm proud of him. This young man runs, he rides bike, this was a picture after he swam in a triathlon. That story was not to be written for him. And we are not to write the story for these young children. We are just to open the door and believe in very big and high things for them. So I want you to think about that when you see that crowd of 20 smiling faces, and know that there's no limits on where they might go and what they might do for you. Okay. We would also like you to turn to page 6. Yes, page 6. There's a section on the top right side that says, how can this pertain to kindergarten, first, and second grade writers and English language learners? We want to give you a little bit more time to read that again, and where we want you to read to is read all of that. Maybe I'll open it up so you can see. Read all of that, and then just read down to the bottom of this next section where it says describe. So just read from there to there. Share with someone next to you.
She did chronological teacher that they talked about. They roast. And then they just don't know. It's just so far. But they never want them to go beyond what. And I think there's and their vision, yeah, it's almost like no limitation. They don't know. They don't know that. Okay, if you know they were set off on the second is and then read to yeah. Yeah.
We don't really feel too strong.
Yeah, it is, it's just really interesting.
All right, so what did you guys think about that section? Did we just have not to interrupt you guys?
Well, some of what you alluded to before about the limiting children by our vision of what they can do. The really chronological age has little to do with it. It's exposure and experience that.
And jumping off of the idea of exposure in the last sentence, they'll dazzle us with what they can do if they're given the time to do it. We can't, that's one thing that we can't throw writing in here or there. Just like if you're a professional athlete or whatever you do it well because you are practicing it daily and you have the opportunity. So that is a critical piece as well. Another thing that this little section might speak to is whether you're K or 2 or 1. Eventually, hopefully, in 1 and 2, you're going to have children that come through your doors that already believe in themselves as writers. But until this picks up and people are doing it consistently, you are starting in the same place that we were. You really are what you need to offer them is so similar, because before you can even branch into the expectation of a nonfiction writing piece for Common Core, you need to establish the idea that they believe in themselves and what they're capable of.
Do you start the first week, or do you give yourself time to play in the classroom and start at Christmas time or Thanksgiving, or do you really start the first week in kindergarten?
The first year we did it, we went and saw Kelly Boswell. If anyone has had an opportunity to go see her, we saw her in October. And so we started in October, and
In
then
true rally fashion, we came back and started it.
like 2 days later. And then last year, we started probably the first week, or I think we started because we start school on that Thursday or Wednesday or whatever, so we started on that Monday. But this year, I think we both have planned to start on the first day of school. Well, that's what I have planned. I don't know.
And just like we said, like it's mini steps. You might not feel comfortable yet starting at the beginning of the year, but as you establish it and as you feel better about it, you're gonna think, oh my gosh, if they were able to come this far and I started in October, I can't wait to see what they do when I start in September. So, yes. Yes and yes and yes, and you start it where you need to, but the sooner the better, and you take them from where they're at, and it might just be drawing pictures, but that's a starting place. It's okay. And
my first year too, I don't think I started till really late in the year, almost Christmas. And then last year I started, and then it wasn't really going well. And then I visited with Julie, and then I kind of rethought everything and redid it over again. And then I always, just any free time, I gave my kids opportunities to write, and I could totally tell the difference. Like some of those who couldn't even write a sentence or barely could write a word, all of a sudden by the end of the year they were coming up after their free time, like, look, Mrs. Della. Oh my gosh. You know, so my goal is first day too. But so we'll see. I mean, writing isn't my comfort zone, but just by watching them last year, I'm thinking, gosh, if I start the first day, how much further can I?
let me put this little piece out there too. Writing, and you talk about not being your comfort zone. If you can gleam onto anything with the writing, it creates relationship between you and your students. Because they're sharing your story, and you're probably sharing your stories in your model lessons. And it was my saving grace the first year when I had 26 kids, and I felt like I spent more time going like this to their little faces than I could like this and listening to them. But I got to know them and listen to them through story and through their writing. So even if you think, I'm not the writer, I'm going to build relationship with my kids, and I know I can touch base with them and hear what's going on in their lives daily just by doing this writing piece. So whatever it is that hooks you in there, take it.
I had an aha last year. I have a little guy who's kind of interesting. They come from a split family and a lot of feuding. You know, dad's not reading the picture, stepdad is, da-da-da. And one day we were kind of conferring, or he was reading me what he wrote. He was writing about his mom being pregnant. And I was like, oh, exciting news. Yeah, I just talked to her last night. She said it was okay to share. You know, and then that's what he was compelled to write the next day. And it was just cool. It was just so, you know.
You
just
get
kinda
little
neat. Yeah,
tidbits
little-
about
yeah,
emotions
yeah.
and dynamics
Yeah.
and things that you would never, just wouldn't get otherwise.
And it is interesting too, because I had a couple little boys, one in particular, who he wrote about Minecraft, like every day. And we'll talk about later too, like how you really get your kids to write about things that they know and care about their life. But I was like, oh, because when he would write about his life, he wrote so well because he had so much to say, but you only have so much to say about Minecraft. And so he was writing that every single day, but it spoke a lot to his life because he didn't have a very good home life. And so he didn't want to write about his life. He wanted to write about a video game where he felt comfortable. And I mean, that speaks a lot to who they are too. And that conversation really brings us into our first model that we're going to do. We're actually going to model the very first lesson that you can do with your kids. And we stole this from Kelly Boswell. And we got part of it from Lucy, and we just kind of meshed it together. But some things that we'd like you to think about when we do our first lesson, it's called, Is This Writing? There's 2 questions that we want you to keep in mind while we're modeling. What is the purpose of the lesson? And we'll keep these up. And then what kind of language am I using as a teacher? And is it really essential to use specific words or specific things? Is that kind of language really essential? So You don't have to come sit on the floor, but if you don't want to sit on the floor, I'll come too. It's up to you guys, so. Okay.
We have to help you out.
Welcome. Sit on the floor. Look at you! Oh, Markel. I went to college with Markel. Were you sitting on the floor? Can you see? Can you see if it is this? Why? Alright. Okay, so just remember those questions we're looking at those up, and we'll talk about them right after. Okay, I'll talk to you guys too, not just me. Like if you ought to go staring at you the whole time. Okay. Boys and girls, today we are going to start something completely new that we have never done before. Every day at this time, we are going to start something called Writer's Workshop. And every day when we do Writer's Workshop, we're going to learn about what it's like to be a writer or what it's like to be an author. Do you see these books, boys and girls? Now, authors wrote these books. They put their words into these books, and they wrote down their thoughts. And that's what you get to do every day. So you're going to get to write stories about your life. You're going to get to be a writer and an author. So boys and girls, I want you to think just for a second. Can you get in a thinking position with me? I want you to think just for a second. What kinds of things does a writer do? I'll have you guys share just a second too. Okay. Can you turn and can you share that with your partner or someone next to you? Can you share with them? I'll give you 10 seconds just to really quickly share with them about what writers do. Go ahead, I'll have you guys do it too. Go! They do on papers. Was there anything else that they ever write on? We'll talk about that too. Give me your eyes back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and done. All right, boys and girls, let's see what that looks like. So I want to write for you today about my dogs. Now, I have 3 dogs. Can you imagine that I have 3 dogs in my house? I want to write about those dogs. And so I'm going to draw a quick sketch of myself. There, and I'm going to draw my 3 dogs. And the things about my dogs is that they are really, really fluffy. All of them. And they need haircuts, so they are really, really fluffy. They're getting a haircut in 2 days. And the little one. Okay, my 3 dogs. And then, of course, they always ask, what are your dogs' names? They are Cotton and Tala and Rocco are my dogs' names. So, I'm going to write about that. I think I want to write, I have 3 fluffy dogs. Now, when I was a little girl, I used to write like this. Is this writing?
Yes.
I can read it. I have 3 fluffy dogs. When I was a little girl, I used to write like this. Is that writing? I can read it. I have 3 fluffy dogs. When I was a little girl, I used to write like this. Is that writing? I can read it. I have 3 fluffy dogs. When I was a little girl, about 5, I even used to write like this. Is that writing? I can read it. I have 3 fluffy dogs. And now, I write like this. Is that writing? I can read it. I have 3 fluffy dogs. Okay, so boys and girls, as I go have you write today, however you write, whatever your writing looks like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a piece of paper and I'm going to have you go and start writing. No matter what your writing looks like, I want you to draw a picture and I want you to think about something that you can write about today that you really, really love and that you really care a lot about. Can you think for just a second? Oh, I see those good thinking faces. Okay. Can you tell your partner? Okay, and then I'm going to stop. So then what I'd have them do, I'd have them tell their thinking partner, and then on the first day, I'd probably just give them their piece of paper and a writing utensil and have them go get started. Okay, thanks, Markel. Let's give Markel. Do you guys know what a trucker cheer is? Yeah, okay, wait, we do it different. This is how we do it. So we start driving and then we slam on the brake, we go, honk, honk. Good job, good, good. Okay, so here's how we'd like you to do. Would you turn and talk with a group next to you, and would you talk to them about both of these bullet points, but what was the purpose of this lesson, and what kind of language did I use as a teacher, and why was that language important or wasn't important? So go ahead, we'll give you about a minute to talk about that.
But it was, it is writing. Right, and to show that, we know this already, because you know, but it's, yeah, to show that it doesn't matter where you are. Anything you was down so the whole gamut to show they won't put it down. I think what is it right now, right? That's the neat way of showing it.
All right, we'll give you 10 more seconds to share.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's think about our first question. What was the purpose of this lesson? Why would this be the very first lesson that a teacher would teach?
Some validity no matter where they're at.
Yeah, and I actually have a story about that. My first year teaching, I did this lesson and I had a really high group of kids. And so I did this, is that writing? No. I said it is, or I can read it. I didn't say it is, but I said I can read it. And I went to the next one. Is this writing? No. Is this writing? No. And almost all, I maybe had one or two say this was. And then I get to this part where they see that they're all letters. And they're like, yeah, that's writing. So that's when they started. Last year I had a very low group of kids coming in, and they all said that this was writing. And so I thought that that was really neat because
So
that
you
was their
have-
level.
Yeah, you have a little piece of assessment
Yep.
from that first lesson about where your kids are at, because they will respond yes to where, or to what they can relate to.
So when I did it last year, and they're all like, yeah, I thought, have they heard me teach this lesson? Because when I watched it before, I'd never heard kids say yes when they did this, but it was kind of funny that they all said that.
Now the other side of this is you've given your kids the license to, like you said, to go ahead and write wherever they are, and it's okay. But I had one of my very highest students ribbling across her page. When I visited with her about it, she said, I can't write the words fast enough. And so she ribbled, and she could read it. And I just had to then just nudge her, try your words next time, try your letters and things like that. But it's interesting. It's interesting what kids will do. I mean, she just had so much to say, she was just gonna ribble. It's good, it's good. Yeah, all right. Oh, okay, then we should talk about our second question. I keep bumping into this thing. What kind of language did I use as a teacher, and was it important, or did you go without it? What do you guys think?
It was age appropriate. It was, I mean, you didn't bring it down, like you didn't talk like they were just babies, you know? It was like, okay, this is an author. It's like you brought in rich vocabulary that they can use.
And I would probably have grabbed, like let's say on the first day of school, if we read Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, I'd probably hold up that book because they saw already, this was just the only book I had. I'd hold up that one, you know?
I liked the book that you pulled up because
It's a kid book.
it's a kid
Yeah,
book,
it's
and I wrote
awesome.
that down. And I
Yeah.
thought, and then you established that transparency as
Yeah.
when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Can you pass that around?
Yeah, we have a bunch of them over there too,
So
but.
that looked like it was planned, Ally.
Oh, perfect! It was.
Yeah.
Like, are these books that you can purchase?
We go through, we've had a lot of problems with the company, but we go through a company called Student Publishing, and the kids, they can write their own book, or you can do class books too, but they write their own book, and then they draw the pictures, and then you scan them in, and they print
But
it
you
for
can
you.
see how delightful it is for a child to see their picture,
Right.
their information.
Yeah,
Isn't it beautiful? And that's an end of the year thing. Not all my kids do it. I give them the option to do it, but I also preface that with it takes a lot of work to write a piece, revisit a piece, restructure a piece, illustrate a piece. And I only have a fraction of my kids that do it. That's okay. That's okay, because then they'll see these books that come, and then a fire is lit in the few children that maybe didn't, and they might think again about where their efforts might be greater the next time around.
How expensive is this?
It's expensive now.
They
Actually,
each get one free.
the kids
Well.
each get a free book like this.
Well, if, I had the problem this year that, like, parents can then buy books, and if they don't buy enough, then the kids don't get a free book who didn't buy, but whatever, so I had to write like this essay. Anyways, but every kid should get one free for sure, because you'll have kids that, you know, their parents won't buy them or whatever the case is, or they can't afford them.
So the glitch is when you decide to go with this company, and we may explore other companies next year, we'll see, they've changed dramatically since.
Treasures,
Right?
student treasures is what.
Student
we've gone
treasures,
through.
and can you do individual books?
I don't know.
See, that's-
Last year I actually opted out because it was, you know, two of us opted out. It's very, very time
It's a
consuming.
huge amount of work.
But then I came to myself, because I went and I observed with my new teacher, and where were we at, Northridge, I think, and they do the same thing. And because we were making it a whole